You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Reports, episode 117.1, the boys basketball scoreboard for Friday's previews in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you've chosen to listen to the Central Indiana Sports Report, we are filled with gratitude for you. Today is December 13th, 2024. It's a Friday. So it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report and a big day in high school basketball. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt. Susie Mengelt is in the control room back at headquarters. This is my 5th of 11 straight days without my girl, and I don't like it one bit. Sorry, some of today's previews are a little short. I've been less than perfect health-wise the last couple of days, and we had a 2-hour delay this morning, and I took full advantage of it. I will do better in the future. Every game except Westdale or Union is scheduled for approximately 7:30 or 8, whether it's following the JV or a girls game and a girls-boys doubleheader. The only game that is the exception is Westdale versus Union. That is scheduled for 6. I assume that's because the Warriors play at noon on Saturday. Tough turnaround for them, but I'm looking forward to getting to see them at the field house on Saturday. We start with what is the Central Indiana Sports Report game of the night and probably the game of the year so far as we're concerned. In the grand scheme of things, Wapahani Lapel may be a little bit of a bigger game, but this is the Central Indiana Conference, and we are the Central Indiana Sports Report. So typically we will err toward the CIC. 2 of the top 3 teams that we predict to be a CIC contender go head-to-head on Friday. The game is likely to set the tone for the CIC going forward. Oak Hill enters at 2-2. Defending co-champion Mississinewa is 1-2. Mississinewa beat the Golden Eagles 47-45 in Converse last year. Otherwise, Oak Hill would be a reigning co-champion. Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader sports editor Michelle Garman and I interviewed Oak Hill head coach Kevin Renbarger and Mississinewa head coach Josh Brooks. That was on Thursday's weekend preview show. That's episode 116.1. Go back and find that one if you want to find out what those coaches had to say, and I highly recommend it. The computer-based Sagarin rating says this is going to be an incredible game, as we expect. Mississinewa is favored by 1, complete toss-up. Frankton is the other team that's expected to compete for the CIC title. The Eagles start conference play Friday at home against Eastbrook. Frankton is 1-2, but the losses have come against a pair of top 10 teams in Tipton and Lapel. Eastbrook looks like a program on the rise under first-year head coach Jeff Liddick, the former girls coach that led that program to a lot of success. The Panthers are 2-2 and have back-to-back wins over Elwood and Southern Wells. On Wednesday, Michelle Garman and I spoke to Frankton head coach Brent Brobston about the Eagles' CIC opener.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to see him play twice against Shenandoah and then last night against Southern Wells, and they bring back quite a bit from last year, but they have a few new pieces, and I thought they did a really good job defending against Shenandoah, and they were physical, and I thought they played strong, and I thought Jeff has done a really good job with them, getting them ready for the beginning of this season. They just look very structured, very organized, and I think they're going to be a difficult matchup for us and a difficult test for us on Friday night.
Any idea what the status is on Bodie and Collins?
I don't. I know they played obviously against the weekend before,
Right.
with Elwood, but or Shenandoah. So I don't know what that status will be because they didn't play last night, and but I just had heard they were sick. So
yeah,
I would assume that they would probably be back for our game.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one. Tell us a little bit about CIC opener. How big of a deal this game is? The biggest one yet, right?
Yeah, it is. It really is our biggest game. So we've played Lapel, we've played Burris, and we've played Tipton, and we learned a lot from the Lapel game. I thought we got better and more organized for the Muncie Burris game. And then I thought Tipton was able to expose us in a couple deficiencies in their game as well in the second half. That game, I thought we played a really good first half, but in the second half, we got slowed down and didn't do what we needed to do in order to score to keep ourselves ahead in that game. So those games, our schedule, we've been battle tested early already, and they've made us a lot better. So it gets you ready for this game on Friday night. And, we're trying to go back in and repeat again as the conference champion. So that's what these kids' goal is. They want to win the conference. They want to win the sectional. That's the top two goals for us. And that journey for them starts Friday night as a team. So this one's extremely important. And this Eastbrook team is a good team. And they're capable of beating anybody on any given night.
Brent, do you expect them to play 2-3? I don't know. Does Liddick like to play zone any? I can't remember from the girls. I'm trying to remember, but I can't.
Well, when he coached girls, he did like to play zone. He played quite a bit of zone and some man-to-man as well. But I think when he finished, he'd like to play a little 1-2-2. But Coach Liddick's a hard-nosed guy that his teams are going to replicate that style and play very, I think, physical, tough, that style of basketball, because that's kind of how he goes about it. I think he's done a great job with their girls program, but it's going to roll right over to the boys as well. And so for us, that's the thing. You were there too, Michelle, but my guess is that anybody saw us play against the zone on Saturday night is going to try to zone us.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, I think so. That's what we've prepared hard this week to go against zone defense and man defense. And obviously we felt like in the game against Tipton that we were exposed. Not necessarily exposed, but just that the ball didn't move as quick as it needed to move against the zone. We didn't get the ball to the high post and short corner like we needed to. When we watched film, we had a 3-hour film session Monday. And when those kids were in there for that amount of time, trust me, there was a lot that we were able to see and work through and get better at. And they just saw that the openings that we missed, the opportunities that we missed in that Tipton game, had we made those opportunities, it would have given us a great chance to win the game.
Sorry,
we just didn't. We weren't able to get the job done, and it's a learning experience for us. So yeah, in this game going into it, they are traditionally man-to-man this season, but I've seen them also play 1-3-1. I've seen them press. I've seen them zone press, and I've seen them play 2-3 zone. So we have to be ready for all that.
Well, you talked about the entering the ball high post, the short corner. I think there was like 2 possessions you had there in the fourth quarter. I thought because Tipton kind of was ignoring the short corner, and I'm sitting there going short corner, but your kids never looked there. That did surprise me.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because we really had played against that with the Adams Central game, and we were able to play a whole game against Adams Central in our scrimmage of a team that plays 2-3 zone, and I thought we really did a good job against them of executing. And then in the Tipton game, I thought we just really got stagnant, and you could see it where we were content on the ball going from wing to point to wing and not getting to the short corner in the high post like it needed to. And then I was disappointed in our secondary break off of makes that we didn't push the ball up the sideline, because we would have been able to do that. It was there, but we were reluctant to do it and just backed up and ran press offense instead. So those 2 things really hurt us in the second half. And because of that, that's what ended up costing us the game.
But through 3 games, still feeling pretty good about your team, Coach?
I do. Yeah, I really like my team. I think they'll get better each game. And the thing about this team with us is they're going to compete every night. So they're going to give it everything they got. They ran out of gas a little bit at the end of the Tipton game. And I just think that sometimes you wonder where's your conditioning at this time of the year. But I feel like, the way we go about things in practice and how hard we go, that we should be in good shape, but you're not always there when you need to be at this point in the season. So hopefully for us, we've made some improvements, because I felt like I said, Monday was good with our film session, but Tuesday, Wednesday's practices were excellent, getting ready for Friday in terms of conditioning too.
Frankton won 59-42 at Eastbrook last year. Eastbrook's last win of the over the Eagles came in December of 2021. Sagarin says it will be the Eagles again. They are favored by 18. Alexandria and Blackford also start CIC play Friday in Hartford City. Alexandria is 0-3. Blackford is 2-1. The Bruins have won 2 in a row. First-year Blackford head coach Aaron Daniels says he likes what he sees from his team through 3 games.
Not too bad. We like where we are. We do have a little bit of a sickness going around. We've had our freshman kid was out yesterday. He's back today, but I don't know what kind of health he'll be in. And then our first sub off the bench, our 6th man, he's been out all week. Came back yesterday, but still didn't look very healthy. And I'm sure everybody's kind of going through it this time of the year. But
Seems like
we
it.
like where we're at, but we're definitely sick.
And what Alexandria obviously is 0-3. I assume you don't approach this as you're playing an 0-3 team. What kind of challenges do the Tigers pose?
Man, I've watched, most, if not all of their games on film, and they don't look like an 0-3 team. You are 100% right. And the cliche is always true with Alex. I mean, they're going to play extremely hard. You're going to get everything they've got. That they're going to be extremely well coached. They're going to be extremely well prepared. But the one thing that they haven't done well yet this year is shoot it. And when I watch them, I mean, it's right there. I mean, if they figure it out, they're going to catch, a really good team on a good night. I really hope it's not us tonight,
Exactly.
when we play them. But they're right there. I mean, they're very, very close. They've got capable shooters. The Kettery kid. I mean, every time he shoots it on film or in person, I think it's going in.
Exactly.
Then they've got the Eckler kid that he's got a scorer's mentality. He looks to score it. They scare me just because they play so hard. And it's only going to be a matter of time. Defensively, they're fantastic. And offensively, it's only going to be a matter of time before they figure it out.
It's the final of 4 straight road games to start the season for Alexandria, which has lost to Anderson, Prep, Westdale, and Eastern to start the season. Alexandria also goes to Tri-Central on Saturday. I asked Alexandria head coach Marty Carroll how things have gone for his team this week.
Knock on wood, I know some people are dealing with some sickness. We haven't really dealt with that, so that's a good thing. Where we've got some, I would say, maybe nagging little, they're not injuries, but they're, little things that are hampering some kids a little bit, but we're healthy and everybody's able to play. So we've tried to have a good week of preparation, and we'll see. We'll find out tonight how good our week of preparation was.
All right, Coach Carroll, a couple of big games this weekend. Like everybody else in the CIC, the focus is on Friday, clearly. Tell us a little bit about Blackford.
I think they obviously are playing well. I think their team, what they do kind of reminds me of us a little bit. They're doing, they're playing with a really good freshman guard. And then they've got a few seniors, that are leading them also. And I think the two teams are similar, except one is quite a bit younger than the other one. They're senior led, and we're quite a bit younger than them, but similar.
Yeah, and I'm sure you haven't spent much time on Tri-Central, but you go into a weekend with 2 good teams. Tell us a little bit about the Trojans.
Well, here's our main thing about them is it'll be our first home game of the year.
Oh, that's right.
I'm sure that our gym's been redone and everybody's played in our gym except us. So
that's right.
I think our kids are excited to get a chance to play in our new gym, or not our new gym, but our redone gym.
Right.
And then Tri-Central's going to pose some problems also. They're big and strong, and they've got some good experience back also.
The Tigers beat Blackford 45-40 in Alexandria last season. They also beat the Bruins the year before 57-49 in Hartford City and have won 8 of the last 10 in the series. Sagarin says Blackford is favored by 9. Elwood lost the only CIC game played so far, 50-21 at Eastbrook last Friday. Madison Grant is the only unbeaten team in the CIC after wins over Wabash and Clinton Central. The Argyles beat Elwood 53-33 for one of their 6 wins last year. Madison Grant has beaten the Panthers 6 times in a row. I spoke with both head coaches, Madison Grant's Josh Hendrickson and Elwood's Ryan Van Skyok. Those interviews are on Thursday's weekend preview show. Again, that's segment 116.1. Also, I will be at the Madison Grant Elwood girls boys doubleheader, and we'll have reports from those on Saturday morning. The Sagarin rating says Madison Grant is favored by 14 points. Class 2A number 1 Wapahani is 3-0 and has beaten 3 competent teams, 2 of them 4A teams, all by double digits, and have won 9 straight regular season games. The Raiders have their toughest test yet Tuesday at Class 2A number 9 Lapel. It's a couple of 2A contenders in Lapel. Rob Hunt, who will be covering the game for the Herald Bulletin, has a preview for us. All right, Rob, at the Central Indiana Sports Report, our focus is mostly the CIC. So our game of the week is Oak Hill, Mississinawa, the CIC opener. But probably the game, if you were looking at it from just a pure, what's the biggest game of the weekend, Lapel-Wapahani doesn't get much bigger than that.
Certainly Friday night it doesn't. You got number 1 coming to town against number 9. Lapel's still stinging a little bit from that Pendleton Heights loss, although they did bounce back and beat Rushville the next day. But at home they want to bounce back, and Wapahani's they're the legit 2A powerhouse now. And when these type of teams come to town, if you can't get motivated, you probably don't belong out on the court. These are the type of games that you absolutely get up for. Too. Let's call them vocal fan bases. And so the place should be both travel well. So I expect a large Wapahani contingent.
Absolutely.
And it should be a really, maybe a postseason feel early in the season for these two teams.
And Wapahani every year seems to graduate half their team, and then there are other players just waiting to be stars. This year it's Camden Bell. Of course, he was a big part of last year's team, but
sure,
he was able to just come in and step right into that go-to role.
Yeah, they really have that culture there now, where it does seem like every year they're like, well, they're going to be down because these 3 guys graduated. Well, no, because these 2 guys who were kind of took backseat roles last year are going to step up this year. And then they had that one kid on JV who got a lot of experience, and now he's ready to go. And they just shoot. They never seem to have that post guy, right? Dominant guy on the inside, but man, they just, I don't know what's in the water in Selma, but they can shoot. They all can shoot.
And Lapel getting good guard play, and if you would have come into the year saying they're going to get good guard play, they're going to have a good season.
Yeah, and I think that they're a team that similarly always could shoot the ball well, and this team is no different from the perimeter. Brody Judge, we know about. Quinn Wilkins is really coming into his own as a, he was kind of that glue guy last year, could just makes winning plays. Now he's a scorer. I mean, he had a big night last week against Pendleton Heights, so I think he played pretty well against Rushville too the next day, if I remember the box score correctly. Yeah, they've got some kids who can shoot it from the perimeter. They can go inside with Luke Jones and Bodie Judge. They've got some size on the inside, so it'll be interesting to see how that part plays out. And with Lapel, I think both teams are going to shoot the ball. Can Lapel take care of the ball? Can they avoid a run of 3? Because you turn the ball over like 3-4 times in a row or over a short period of time, Wapahani can turn that into points quickly, and that's how you give up an 8-0 run. So a 2-point deficit becomes a 10 or 11-point deficit, and the Raiders are off and running.
Obviously, this is a big win for whichever team comes out of it, because Wapahani, if you go on the road and win at Lapel, that's kind of a validation of what you've been so far. And Lapel, if you beat the number 1 team, it kind of changes the whole narrative around the program.
Right, and I think that's it's one of those measuring stick games. Early in the year, a lot of teams still trying to figure out how good are we. Lapel thinks they're pretty good, and I think they're right. I think they'll be in contention for that sectional at the end of the year. Although Tipton, I'm sure, will have something to say about that, but and Frankton for that matter. But um, you know, this is one of those games where they can really look at the end of the night and say, hey, how did we fare against the gold standard at 2A right now? And that's kind of what I think the takeaway's got to be for them tonight.
Wapahani beat Lapel twice last year, including a 16-point win in the sectional on their way to a semi-state championship. The Raiders have beaten the Bulldogs the last 6 times they've played and ended their season 3 times, including the last 2 years. Michelle Garman and I had a conversation with Lapel head coach Kevin Cherry about the matchup with Wapahani on the weekend preview. The Sagarin rating says Wapahani by 1. It is going to be a great game. We expect to have a report from Rob Hunt on Saturday's Central Indiana Sports Report, but even if that doesn't happen, we will get a report from him very soon. Delta and Yorktown renew their rivalry Friday. Delta is 2-1, but suffered a disappointing 61-40 home loss to Mount Vernon in their Hoosier Heritage opener last Friday. Yorktown enters unbeaten. This is the Tigers' 4th straight home game to start the year. Delta beat the Tigers 3 times last season, including in the sectional championship game. This year, the Sagarin says expect another incredible game. It says Yorktown by a point. Mount Vernon is the only team that has a win in the HHC, as I just said, over Delta. Of course, that was a huge win for the Marauders. Pendleton Heights opens conference play Friday in Fortville. The night after beating up on Delta, Mount Vernon took a 29-point loss against number 4 Fishers. Marauders have won 5 straight over the Arabians. Sagarin says it'll be 6, Mount Vernon by 12. Tipton and Western are both off to great starts to the season and face each other Friday in both teams' Hoosier Conference openers. 2A number 6 Tipton is 2-0 after wins over Tri-Central and Frankton. Western has 3 in a row since opening the season with a Class 4A loss, a loss to Class 4A number 13 Kokomo. They went to Northwestern and got a win on Friday. Big win for them. I'm going to quit saying it. Just go back and listen to the weekend preview. Michelle and I spoke to Coach Hawkins and Coach Bennington as well. The Sagarin rating says Tipton by 15. 2-2 Hamilton Heights hosts 2-1 Logansport on Friday, and both teams' Hoosier Conference opener. This is the first meeting between the programs, and it's the Berries Hoosier Conference debut. The Sagarin rating says it won't go well for them. Hamilton Heights by 9. Tri-Central and Eastern are both coming off their first wins of the season last weekend. Both are 1-1. The Trojans beat the Comets in overtime last year, but Eastern has won 8 of the last 10 in the series. It's the Hoosier Heartland opener for both teams, and it should be a really good one. Again, we spoke with Tri-Central head coach Cam Heineman on Thursday's weekend preview. Just go listen to it. Eastern is favored by 3. It's the North Central Conference opener for Marion on Friday at Richmond. The Giants enter the contest 2-1, and Richmond is 1-2. With Anderson and Kokomo looking like the top teams in the conference, this is probably an early conference elimination game. Michelle Garman and I spoke with Grant Shouse, who will be calling the game for the Action Sports Network. It's probably my fault that it turned into mostly a talk about the good old days of Marion versus Richmond. By the way, the Red Devils won 82-61 last year, but Marion beat Richmond in 1987 for the state championship, so we'll always have that advantage. Sorry, I'm kind of a Marion homer from back in the day. That was their 3rd state championship in a row, by the way. Here's Grant with the preview.
The North Central Conference, in the 80s was the conference in high school basketball. It really was. And the North Central Conference, let's face it, it's just not what it used to. It's just not what it used to be now.
Of course.
Marion is coming in at 2-1. Well, with a loss to Hamilton Southeastern the other night, they're going to have an opportunity to get back at it at Richmond at the Tiernan Center, which is a tough place to play. Another one of the largest gyms in the world.
Right. Fantastic place.
Yeah, I've never called a game. I've called a football game there. I've never gotten a chance to call a basketball game there, but I'm looking forward to it. Richmond's 1-2 with a win against Jay County, and then they lost to Springboro out of over by Dayton, Ohio.
That's a great program.
And they also lost to Floyd Central this past weekend. So they have a good chance to bounce back. They're well coached with Billy Wright, who played played at Richmond, is from Richmond, from that area. They know the game, or he knows the game real well. So does James Blackman. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. Two old North Central Conference rivals. These teams have, back in the '80s, played each other in the state championship game.
I remember it well.
Yeah, when Marion was in the middle of Purple Rain and the 3P, winning 3 state titles in a row. So
and the Austins for Richmond.
I don't know much personnel-wise about Richmond. I haven't had a chance to dive into them yet.
No, I was saying in the '80s, Woody Austin and Chad Austin for the Richmond.
Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah. Chad Austin too.
Yeah.
Went on and played at Purdue.
Yeah, and Woody.
Yeah,
both
matched up with Jay Edwards and Lyndon Jones.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best high school basketball teams ever assembled.
That was so much fun.
Like I said, it's going to be a vintage matchup down there at the Tiernan Center Friday night.
And Marion going through a little bit of growing pains, probably. Like you said, the North Central Conference isn't quite what it used to be because all of that population has migrated south to Hamilton Southeastern and Westfield and the like. So, but still, I think the conference is pretty good this year.
Yeah, and like you said, it is unfortunate that's kind of the case. I mean, honestly, we learned about it. I had a history teacher in high school that taught us about the North Central Conference.
Fantastic.
And he told us there's an old basketball conference, and all these towns had a plan or something that people worked at. Like, Marion had the GM plan. There's a factory in Newcastle, Richmond,
Chrysler,
Delco, Rigby, and Anderson.
Yep.
Yeah, just all these places, and so a lot of people moved in there. They populated these towns, and just like you said, these people have migrated south. That's why the schools like Westfield and Hamilton Southeastern and Fishers, who has only been open for about 15 years, that high school, 15 or 20 years, has only been able to or has been able to produce what they have because they have so many people moving into that area. So it's kind of sad to see it happen. Everyone tells me, they're like, Grant, I wish you could have seen a game at Marion back in the day. And I'm right there with them, man. Like Kevin was telling me the other night, it used to be so packed and rocking and loud. There were 7,000 people at the game, and just even at the old Anderson Wigwam too, it was like that. So, I wish it could have been like that, but
Well, Grant, I'm guessing in your lifetime it'll happen again because things go in cycles, and I bet the North Central Conference at some point is back on top. I just have a feeling that these towns are going to have revitalization, and we're going to see some great North Central. And it's starting now. Kokomo has a really nice team, and
Marion a nice team too.
Yeah, and Muncie Central still isn't, but they'll get there, and so.
And I think it's going to be a matter of time before schools like Newcastle and Huntington North move back into the conference. I could really see Newcastle moving back into the conference at some point too.
Oh, all right, Grant. Well, thank you so much. Of course, Grant will have the call on the Action Sports Network. As you can tell, I'm not feeling very well.
No, you're good.
But thank you so much for your time, as always. We look forward to hearing from you. And after IU games, Grant's going to have his 10-minute reaction to the men's basketball games. The Sagarin rating says Richmond is favored by 10. Told you it wouldn't be long before Kokomo was ranked. The Wildcats are already up to number 13 in the latest Class 4A poll and should just keep climbing. They host 3-1 McCutcheon on Friday in their home debut and their first of 5 in a row at home. Kokomo beat the Mavericks 59-34 last year and has won 3 in a row against their former conference rivals. Sagarin rating says Kokomo by 34. Taylor comes to Northwestern on Friday at 3-0 for the second time in 3 years. Taylor's average score so far, 58-24. The Tigers beat the Titans 44-42 last year and have won 9 of the last 10 in the series. Sagarin says they'll do it again, Northwestern by 8. Sheridan is 3-1 and should go to 4-1 Friday when it hosts Clinton Central. The Blackhawks are also 1-0 in the Hoosier Heartland and should go to 2-0. Sheridan have beaten the Bulldogs the last 2 years, including 63-48 last year in Frankfort. They're favored by 25 this year, according to the Sagarin ratings. Really good start for Sheridan. Westell is looking for its best start through 4 games since 2021, when the Warriors host 1-2 Union in a Mid-Eastern Conference contest Friday. Westell has beaten the Rockets 11 times in a row, 10 of those by double digits. This year, Sagarin says Westell by 37. Should be a competitive game at Blue River, where Cowan looks for its first win of the season. Both teams are 0-4, and neither one is horrible. The Blackhawks beat Blue River 52-45 last year for their first win of the season, before winding up 11-12. Sagarin rating says Blue River by 4. Daleville goes on the road for the third straight game. The Broncos' first non-conference game at Centerville on Friday. Daleville's 0-2. The Bulldogs are 2-2 and have lost their last 2 games against Northeastern and Delta. Centerville has beaten the Broncos 7 straight. Daleville's last win in the series came in 1999. I think Centerville looks like they've legitimately turned the corner on their rebuild. Sagarin says Centerville by 7. Class A number 5 Liberty Christian visits University for another tough test Friday. The Lions are 3-2 and have won their last 2 by a combined 125 points. But University isn't Purdue, Poly North, or Burris. The Trailblazers are 2-1 following last year's 12-win campaign, in which they beat Liberty 68-52 in Anderson. University has beaten the Lions 8 times in a row. Sagarin says University by 7. Anderson Prep looks for its 5th win of the season. That would just be the 3rd time in the program history they've gotten to 5 wins. The Jets are off to their best start ever at 4-1 following Wednesday's 70-61 loss at Cambridge City, which ended their unbeaten streak. Now the Jets host 0-4 Seton Catholic in their first game at home in December. The Cardinals from Richmond are 10-0 all-time against APA. Seton is where Memphis Grizzlies star Desmond Bain played, by the way, and I saw him in high school and didn't see him ever being this good. The Sagarin rating says Seton Catholic by 16. And now you know everything we know about Central Indiana boys basketball. Go like, subscribe, follow right now. Tell a friend. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media.